class. I've tried to do this recording a number of times, so we're going to change it around a little. As we begin Module 1, I want you to think about why we study families through a sociological lens. Yeah, families are a group, an organization. They're common in every society, and really we want to explore why to look at it from the sociological viewpoint and not necessarily the political or the psychological viewpoint. Now, I start every module with a chance at music, and as I've turned these on with the new Screencast-O-Matic, the YouTube videos seem to cut out the microphone for the whole production. So I will leave you just with the background music that you yourself can join into this piece of music. I use music because music explains family at every level. And it's very much part of the social condition when you think about how we interact. So, what the first music for this class is no other than We Are Family. All the things that come into place. And as you can watch on your own module, the YouTube video, you know, that family is more than just being brothers and sisters or mother and father. It is those people who become very important to our process. So let's look at the study. The sociology of family examines the family as an institution and a unit of socialization. And throughout this course, we'll talk about how important socialization is. We'll look at it in parenting, in dating, in gender roles, all of those things that come into place as we start to explore it. You know, I've given you a number of links here in your module to look at sociological terms. Your book brings those to you, but especially there are terms like the sociological imagination, coined by C. Wright Mills, that talks about our capacity to look at social issues from others' perspectives. A very important piece for us to do, to step out of our own world and look from other dimensions and try to understand what goes on. This is a very significant factor. Whatever job we do, whether it's in counseling, a police officer, a teacher, or just a worker in a store, understanding that there are other things going on. Now, in this process, I've asked you to not forget to do your APA tutorial. That's due very quickly on September 11th. So keep that in mind and think about what you're going to be focusing in this class. You'll notice that already here I'm asking you to submit what you want to write your topic, your research paper on, and your topic for the research paper. You will find here is the link to the Dropbox, and it's also available under your grade book in the Dropbox. So let's look at the chapter summary. Very quickly, family is defined as a relationship by blood, marriage, or affection. Now, the government doesn't put it that way. The government basically says that family is who we are legally part of in that process. So it's over at our PowerPoints. You'll be able to look at these more in depth. But the legal definition versus the social definition become important in how we look at it. That a family relationship is by blood or marriage or affection, and they cooperate economically. Now, this is important to consider about family. There is an economic piece that comes into play here as we start to explore things. And we're going to see that social status makes a difference, how we support, and that there is this expected care for members of your family. And it's part of your identity and your connection to that larger group. There is no place that has more social influence than family as we start to look at it. So let's look at the legal versus the social definition. A family of orientation is the family to which you were born. The family of procreation is the family in which you are married to or partnered to in parenthood. And then there's a fiction The fictive kin are those non-related who are like family to us or become that family member, such as my girlfriend, that basically is a sister to me in the process. A very, very important member of my family. Now, the functions of family. Now, anthropologist William Stevens defined that their family gives us the socially legitimate sexual union, and it's a published announcement of what marriage is. It also assumes some idea of more or less explicit contract in the process, and it undertakes some idea of permanency. We expect marriage to last. Now, the interesting thought is there are functions then of family. One, to regulate sexual behavior, reproducing and socializing children. There is the property inheritance piece, the economic cooperation, our placement, our status, our roles, and also that warmth, care, and intimacy that comes into place within a family caring. Now, they don't all exist at the same time, but it's important to think about how they come into their roles. So we look at these themes as we start to explore some theories here, and we look at some social structure. And in sociology, we look at micro and macro level structures as we look at that social framework that stabilizes our relationship and gives us an interaction with other. Micro level focuses on the individual and his or her interaction in a specific setting. And you're going to see some theories down the road, especially things like symbolic interaction, that look at the individual's effect on the bigger society or on the bigger group, that interaction, say the misbehaving teenager out there, and how it affects the parents. And we know that once children are born, that the happiness of a couple actually diminishes until those children are grown and out of the house. And so we can see that individual level come into effect. Then we have the micro levels, which focus on our interconnectedness of the family and those intimate relations with the rest of society, so the economic strain, the power of relationships, the sexual orientation, the gender pieces that come into place. Looking at family, we're looking at so many of the issues. For some of you who have taken sociology courses before, these are institutions that we're going to look at that set roles and beliefs. Family is a social institution, and they are the structure that are passed down social norms and understanding of society. They also give us our status. In fact, a major status comes into place, which defines us and makes us who we are, that master status position. Now, marriage patterns. Families are always changing. I often ask, is the American family dying or is it just changing? And a lot of people feel that the loss of the traditional two parents and children, dad the breadwinner, mom staying home, is the death of the family. But that was a family for a very short term period of time, and we'll look at that historically. But we do look at multiple marriage patterns across many different cultures. Monogamy is what we accept as the marriage pattern, marriage between one man and one woman. But that was not always the norm of society, and still is not necessarily the norm of all cultures and backgrounds. So we have polygamy or polygamy. A system where we have more than one spouse, and it varies in its title whether it's more than one husband or more than one wife. We also see that there's a pattern of authority, and in the majority of relationships in the past, that families tended to be patriarchy. That's a form where the norms are that the men will have the natural right of position and authority over women and children. And matriarchy has not been found in many societies, a few, but that's a form where the woman has the power and the authority that should be vested into women. And then there's egalitarian. That's the expectation that the power and the authority are vested equally, both with men and women. interesting as we explore this. We'll explore this more under family work because this becomes this battle within that, because we say we're egalitarian, but the reality of it is there's still this hangover of patriarchal families and the role that comes into play. Then there are such things as tracing descendancy. In the Hispanic culture, oftentimes they carry their mother's last name and not their father's last name because they have that matriarchal lineage, that descendant pattern that travels through. I'm going to let you continue through most of these slides on your own, but we're going to look a little bit about some of the interesting pictures. As we look at the history of family in the United States, we look at family in colonial life, and there's a significant difference that has occurred in that time period. Remember that in early colonies and early states, there were some states that women did not have any rights. The rights of inheritance were totally from the father to the son and never to the daughter, and the wife, if the husband died, was left on her own. So we had some interesting transitions within those family patterns, and we see that history continues to change the way we look at family. Again, as you explore your text, it is important that you read it deeply. Your text is based on research, qualitative and quantitative research, data that has been collected and run through scientific journals or research journals to get that data together. Your author quotes those studies, and that's how we get to know what we know. You in this class will be doing exactly the same thing as you do a research paper. You will look at research journals and look at original research to analyze and describe what's going on in the family. Qualitative research looks at that narrative description and analyzes the patterns, and quantitative research collects data that can be measured numerically, more likely survey data that is collected and brought forward. Now, theories will be brought out throughout this text, and we will look at theories not only sociological, but the psychological, and especially the social psychological, or the sociological, whichever point you're taking that from. Those theories that cross the board to look at parenting theories and whatever. But you need to know the general theories that come into place because they're tools to help us describe and understand the real world. I mentioned micro and macro before. Oftentimes in social work they talk about meso-theories. We in sociology tend to stick to micro-macro, and you can see the breakup here of the major large theories of sociology, but you'll be hitting on to more of them. Some of the really important theories that we will hit within are such theories as social exchange theory, and that draws upon the bottom that human behavior used by economics. What's interesting is that social exchange theory talk about this. We do something now to get it back later. So that someone caring for a child now may expect that return of caring for that child caring for them and aging. You see, it helps us make sense of that world, why there is a relationship back and forth. Now, symbolic interaction looks as a theory that uses the everyday symbols, the words, the gesture, the appearances, and how we interpret them. One of the big members of symbolic interaction is the looking glass theory. As if I were in front of a classroom and I was looking out at you and you were all there with blank stares. You see, I don't know that online. You can just turn this video off. I only know it because D2L will tell me how long you've been in module. But if you turn me off in class, I get this perspective back and get the idea that I'm not good enough to make your standards, or I'm not reaching you at that level. So we have some real interesting things that go over time. I think you'll start enjoying this book as you see how diverse we start looking at the process that families today are very diverse. They're not necessarily different than what they were in the past, but we accept so many forms of what family can look like. And I'm going to flip back to the module again so that you have them. As you see, we'll have this video. You have your short summary. You're going to read the text, view the PowerPoint, which you've basically done through this video. And then you're going to go to the library site, and all you have to do is click here, and it will lead you into the library page. You need to sign in with, if you're not on campus, into it, and you will enter Films on Demand, and you'll watch Beyond the Nuclear Family. You'll also, for this first module, this first week, need to contribute by the end of the week, or by the time listed, and I believe it is Monday at 11:30 a.m. You will need to contribute to the first discussion board, and you're going to need to find that newspaper article we talked about earlier. Finally, an assessment for your reading and for what you've gone through, the film. You're going to find a quiz, and in this case it's a multiple choice quiz located here. So also can find that, as I pointed out in your introduction video, you'll be able to find those under drop-down quizzes with their due dates. So if you pop over here, you're automatically entered into that quiz, and you can see that mine looks a little different than yours as you pop into the quiz, but you'll notice that there are due dates of September 4th, and you need to finish that by 11:30 p.m. Now, I hope this is a good start. Give me some feedback on how you would like the videos to be, but we'll try to keep them short, under 20 minutes. A few will go over. As we start to explore families, I think you're going to find some interesting things to look at.